officials are busy fighting the fire there. 20 fire tenders, that's the latest number at the spot as we speak.
Tonight, investigators looking for any clues that will explain what led to this.
A bus and a truck.
The explosive crash between
बारिश हो रही थी। इससे पहले कि उसे कुछ पता लगता, अवध आसाम एक्सप्रेस और ब्रह्मपुत्र मेल 2 अगस्त 1999 को 1:45 बजे आपस में टकरा गई।
Friends, I have come again with a very important portion from the writing section of yours, that is the newspaper report writing, particularly on the accidents. So I have taken 3 examples.
Well, students, I have taken these first 2 points together, the heading as well as the byline. And when I get to the heading here, don't you see the statistics clearly mentioned? 3 charred to death, more than dozen shops gutted in a major fire mishap. And you must have seen the kind of accident it is, a major fire mishap. So that is a must, whether it's a flood or a fire or a train accident or a bus accident or a bomb blast, whichever it is. So that's one thing, and that's very important. Another thing is the statistics. As I discussed previously also, the common things among all these 3 kinds of accidents I have taken up, that is the statistics. How many died, what is the total damage caused to life and property also. 3 charred to death, more than dozen shops gutted in a major fire mishap. Gutted means completely burnt. And the second point is just below it, just beneath it, on to the right, byline, that is called byline. By whom has it been reported? So by special reporter, and the name of the newspaper that follows it. It could be the Hindu, or here it is TOI, that is Times of India. By special reporter, or by, you could even name the reporter if it's asked or told in the question as well, like by Jitendra, special correspondent, Times of India. Now comes the point number 3, and that is the place and the date. Like in this particular case, it is New Delhi, that is the place. You could name the state or the city, whichever it is. New Delhi, that is New Delhi, 23 October 2019. Don't write 23rd, just write 23 October, write the full spelling, and 2019, or whichever the year you have chosen to write. That's point number 3. Now coming to point number 4, that is the body of the report starting, the body of the report for the newspapers. And the first paragraph is nothing but a detailed elaboration of the topic itself, the heading itself. I will read it for you. In a major fire accident in the Ghaffar Khan cloth market area, Karol Bagh, more than 3 cloth merchants were burnt to death and more than a dozen shops gutted. Like I said, gutted means completely burnt. So don't you see it to be nothing but an elaboration of the heading itself, that comprises what, when and where. Remember what happened? A fire accident. When? It was on 23rd October. Of course, the when, the particular time is going to be stated in the next paragraph itself, and the where as well. The where did it happen? Ghaffar Khan cloth market area, and the statistics also. Next up, students, is a very important entity of this report writing, and that is the eyewitness account. Remember, you must have seen on televisions also the eyewitness is being asked as to what had actually happened. In this case, it is in print. The eyewitnesses have to be caught up, have to be found, and direct speech from the eyewitnesses can be written over here, like as you see in red over here. One of the eyewitnesses, Hari, says, "We saw huge plumes of fire and billowing smoke going up in the air at about 7 p.m. yesterday in the major street of Gafar Market," recalled Hari, a garment shop owner. Of course, it was a cloth market area, so a garment shop owner could surely tell us actually what happened at that particular time. Now, students, you could ask another eyewitness as well. This is optional. I have taken 2 eyewitnesses to make the picture clearer. Like here, according to another eyewitness, Shanti, who happened to visit the market with her family. Now, this is a customer. Actually, they must have visited the market to buy something or purchase something. She says, "It was a ghastly scene of hundreds of people running here and there in dread and panic. We were really shocked and were in disarray." Well, don't you see the direct speech here in double inverted commas?
सुरेश गिरी हमारे साथ मौजूद है, यहाँ के एक प्रेमाइसिस में ये सिक्योरिटी गार्ड है। बताइए क्या हुआ था उस वक्त जब आग लगी?
ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा ही आग लग गया था, बहुत फैल रहा था। फिर हमारे गार्ड ने ऊपर दरवाज़ा तोड़ा, जाने के लिए कहीं जगह नहीं था। वो दरवाज़ा तोड़ के आदमी लोग को जैसे ही नीचे भेजा, वैसे तुरंत मेरे को कॉल किया कि आदमी लोग को मैं भेज रहा हूँ, तो उनको सेफ जगह पे कहीं से भी लेके जाओ। बहुत कम से कम 200 आदमी थे और सब आदमी नीचे आए, उन लोगों को मैं सेफ जगह पे लेके गया। फायर वाले को कॉल करने के बाद और सब एक साथ ही दौड़ के आ रहे थे, कोई एक पे गिर रहा है, कोई एक पे गिर रहा है, और कैसे भी मैं संभालते हुए सबको एक साइड में लेके गया। मतलब एक तरह की भगदड़।
Do you see, students, this eyewitness is speaking in direct speech, that is in double inverted commas, and it is preferable that he gives the time of the accident as well.
को मिला कर दो। कितने बजे के आसपास से आग लगी?
ये 12:15 के आसपास आग लगी है,
12:15 बजे के करीब।
Next up, students, like I said, it's a description by the reporter himself. Now he will report as to what he saw at the moment when he reached the site. It could be 5 to 6 hours later when the actual fire had caught, and then he says, "Huge tongues of fire leapt onto great heights. More than 50 shops in the thick market area had caught fire, the menacing fire." And thereafter he goes on to say the chaos that he saw there rather. There was chaos among the people as it was a shopping prime time in the evening. The cries and screams of shoppers rent the air. Well, a little description, about 3 to 4 sentences, but vivid one, very vivid. People were seen, the injured were taken, food packets were dropped, brigades were pressed into action, area cordoned off. Use the past passive voice, remember. Of course, when you're there as the reporter, you will see fire brigades as well, fire tenders as well, trying to extinguish the fire. So he writes, at the time when this reporter visited the site, 10 fire brigades had already been pressed into action, and water hoses were busy trying to put the fire off. According to a senior fire officer, 2 firefighters too have been trapped in the fire while rescuing the people. Well, students, do you see the usage of passive voice, and that too in past tense? Had already been pressed. That is in red. I have deliberately reddened those lines in rubric and underlined them as well, so as to make it pretty clear that it is always passive and past that is used here. Had been plus third form, have been plus third form, had been pressed into action, have been trapped in the fire. So you've got to talk to a senior fire officer as well.
यहाँ पर फिलहाल आप देख सकते हैं सीनियर फायर ऑफिसर मौजूद हैं, उनसे ही बात करते हैं। सर, कितने बजे की कॉल थी? सुबह 4:30 बजे। तो अभी सर फायरमैन फंसे हुए हैं अभी? हाँ, अभी फंसे। कितने फंसे हैं सर फायरमैन? अभी एक फंसा हुआ है। सर, ये कोई और कैजुअलिटी किसी तरह की तो कोई रिपोर्ट नहीं की है? नहीं, बाकी निकाल ली हमने। निकाल ली। सर, ये बिल्डिंग भी कोलैप्स हो गई थी जब ये पूरा हुआ? पूरी कोलैप्स हो गई, पीछे की तरफ सारी गिर गई बिल्डिंग। देखिए,
You see, students, how the fire officer informs that the whole building has collapsed and 2 firefighters or was it one who has got trapped also in the fire while rescuing?
Ambulances, medical teams by the NGOs, as well as from government and the volunteers. Remember these 3 points in a fire accident. Remember always. Ambulances, medical teams, of course, along with the ambulances, as well as the volunteers. The reporter says here, he writes, 12 ambulances were seen taking the grievously injured to the nearby district hospital. Remember this, to the nearby district hospital. Second point, 3 medical teams were deployed into action by the Red Cross Society. And finally, you would write, even the volunteers were seen rescuing the injured in their personal vehicles. Were seen, were deployed. Remember, again passive use, and that too in the past tense. Now comes the actually statement by the police officer who happens to visit the site, and the reporter takes his statement. He happens to be the circle inspector this time of Karol Bagh Thana. And as I said, it is a direct speech in double inverted quotes. He says, the police official says, it must be an act of negligence, or it could be even an electric spark which caught fire. But an act of sabotage or an act of terrorism cannot be ruled out. According to Mr. Bhupendra Kumar, Circle Inspector, Karol Bagh Thana, who rushed to the occasion within half an hour. Well, that is also integral part of the report. And remember, the officer has to say something that, to his knowledge, by the limited interrogation that he has done so far, जितना भी उसने इंटरोगेशन अभी किया है, तो उसका थोड़ा सस्पिशन या कोई उसका एस्टिमेट है कि का कॉज क्या है, इस एक्सीडेंट का कॉज क्या है, वो उसको बताना पड़ेगा, राइट? And finally, in the ultimate part, in the last part of this report writing, is the chief minister making a survey, and he also announcing a relief package. So here it goes. Shri Arvind Kejriwal, Chief Minister, Delhi, has announced a relief package or a compensation package of 2 lakh each for the families of the dead, for the families of the deceased, and 25,000 each for the treatment of those with serious injuries. Well, that is very, very important, the relief package announced at the end of it. And as a finishing stroke, you can always end up with the investigatory part. The police investigations are further on, and the rehabilitation process of the mishap affected area has already got started. And here's how the report ends. That's the last part of the report writing for this particular accident, and you will score 10 on 10, or in this particular year it's 5 on 5. Well, to draw parallels between different kinds of accident reports, I have come up with another report writing on the flood or a cyclone, a very catastrophic cyclone. And here it goes the same way. Actually, the heading is the first one that comes. More than 150 drowned to death. Katrina cyclone creates havoc. You must have seen the statistic, the number of deaths here, and the destruction that has resulted in the catastrophic cyclone. That is number 1 point. Point number 2 is again byline. That is, who is the reporter? By Special Reporter, Times of India. TOI means Times of India. It could be even The Hindu, or whichever the newspaper is. Well, coming to the third point, third part of this report again is the place and the date. And the place happens to be Orissa, date 23 October 2019. I have actually taken the same date. I am actually trying to draw parallel the commonalities between these two reports. I'll bring up another report after this, but yes, you have to see the commonalities. So the place and the date, remember. And then starts the body of the report writing here. The first paragraph being again about what, where, when, and little more precise what actually happened. And it is an elaborated account, elaborated version of the heading itself. Zara dekhte hain. A devastating cyclone struck the coasts of Puri on the banks of Lord Jagannath Puri in Orissa in the early morning of 22nd October, leaving behind trail of death and destruction in its wake. Do you see? It's nothing but the heading, but in a little more detailed way. Now the next thing is the eyewitness account in direct speech. Like I have already told you, again here, I was awakened by a tremendous roar of oceanic waves at about 4 a.m. Remember, do you see this fisherman who is the eyewitness has come up with the exact time also, which needs to be told to the readers. So he says at about 4 a.m. He is not very sure about whether it was 4:15 or 4:10, but it's around 4 a.m. What I saw was a huge cloud of 20 feet high waves rushing towards us with a deathly speed of more than 40 miles an hour. This is something which is a personal experience of this fisherman, recalled a fisherman with terror still in his eyes. Next up, like I said, it's an on-the-spot description by the reporter, and he has to say that in 3 to 4 sentences. Like here, people were seen carrying their infants and children on their shoulders. Some had climbed or perched on the rooftops or on the treetops and waited for help. Swollen dead bodies of animals and men were floating in all directions. The carcasses, the dead bodies, the corpses, and even huge old trees had been uprooted. See, the description includes the trees, the animals, men, and children. Coconut betel nut trees had fallen. As you see, these type of descriptions are an integral part of the report writing for accidents. And the description has not yet ended. The reporter goes on to say that all the means of transport and communication were broken, while half the electric poles in the 50-kilometer radius were uprooted. Debris of houses was all floating on the waters. Debris means all the leftovers, jo malba jise what that you say in Hindi, right? In such situations of disaster, it is very important that the rescue operation is done. Students, you know, rescue. The victims have to be rescued. And so the reporter writes, at the time when this reporter visited the site, 3 companies of CRPF Jawans were pushed into rescue operation. Apart of that, 6 Indian Air Force helicopters or choppers were seen. It's a passive voice, remember, were third form. I have done in green. Were seen dropping food packets along with water bottles in the flood affected, worst affected areas. Remember, the flood hit areas, these relief and the rescue operations were in force, right? Without any doubt, the medical aid is an important part of it. So the reporter notices it and he writes, 3 medical teams were deployed into action by the non-government organization NGO Smile. It could be any NGO, it could be even Red Cross, as we saw in the last report for the flood accident. There seems to be a risk of epidemic spreading out if government does not assist soon. And the CRPF Jawans were also pushed into action. We already wrote it. They were pulling out the dead bodies. That was a part of the rescue operation. Well, that has already been written. And comes the important statement by the collector of the town or the mayor of the town, because police will not have any role over here in the flood affected areas. So the mayor, and he says in direct speech, double quotes, I've written this in red. As a result, the eastern part of Bhubaneswar will be without electricity for at least 2 more days, said the mayor of the town, who surveyed the spot from helicopter at around 10 a.m. That was around 6 hours after the flood or the cyclone hit the area. No? Well, students, to finish this report again, the last point is the relief package, or call it the monetary assistance or the financial help by the government, and government represented by the chief minister over here, and he chooses the direct speech. Children, remember, you could even avoid the direct speech here in the last paragraph, the relief package. You could even write the chief minister Shri Babulal Bahuguna announced a relief package of 2 lakh rupees, 2 lakh, and so and so. But here the reporter chooses the direct speech by the chief minister, and he says in direct quotes, this is nature at its worst. We announce a relief package of 2 lakh rupees, 2 lakh each for the families of the deceased. The deceased means the dead, those who have died. So 2 lakh each for the families of the deceased, DECEA, not DISEA. It's not disease, it is deceased, or families of the dead, and 25,000 each for the treatment of those with serious injuries. Double quotes closed. Announced Shri Babulal Bahuguna, Chief Minister, Orissa. Well, that's the end of this report.
आपस में बुरी तरह उलझ गई 13 बोगियां। ये भारतीय इतिहास की सबसे बुरी ट्रेन आपदाओं में से एक की गवाह बनी। 300 से ज्यादा लोग मारे गए और 600 से ज्यादा लोग घायल हो गए। ये सरकारी आंकड़ा था। उस ट्रेन की जनरल बोगियों में क्षमता से कई गुना ज्यादा लोग थे। मृतकों का आंकड़ा 1000 के पार बताया जाता है।
This ghastly accident, the train accident, 300 die and more than 600 injured as Awadh Assam collides with Brahmaputra mail. Well, that is the heading, students. You see the stats here. And next is byline by Ganesh Kalra, The Hindu. Well, who is the reporter? Kishanganj, 2nd August 1999. Well, students, I have taken this real accident. It happened actually on that same very date as is mentioned here. And the first paragraph of this body of the report is thus. In a terrible train accident, Awadh Assam Express collided with Brahmaputra Mail 10 kilometers from the Kishanganj junction, Bihar, in the early morning hours of 2nd August. Well, do you see this statistics rich first paragraph? And you saw the place and the date, Kishanganj. That was the precise place where the accident happened. And you see that the when also, the early morning hours of 2nd August. And the time is not mentioned here. Remember the time, that time, whether it's 4 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the evening, whichever it is, will come in the next paragraph in the eyewitness account. The collision was so devastating that 13 bogies of Avadasam were derailed and went astray 100 meters into a nearby farmland. क्योंकि मैंने ये real incident लिया है, तो you must know what actually happened here. So reporter writes here, the collision was so devastating that 2 passenger bogies went flying 50 feet up into the air and fell with a bang on the other derailed bogies. 13 bogies rammed into each other in a twisted mess. This detailed description is little optional, children. The engine exploded into fire as it fell, and hundreds of passengers got dismembered into pieces, with their blood spattering all around. I have taken these 2 paragraphs in brackets, and that too in yellow color, because that is the alternate version of what I had already said in the first what, where, when. जो पहले what, where, when बताया, उसका detailed version है ये, which you have listened in Hindi as well by that exact reporter. So you could have chosen any of these 3 versions.
मुकेश कुमार की बोगी हवा में 50 फीट ऊपर उछल गई, 2 अन्य बोगियों पर जाकर गिरी, लेकिन ये चमत्कार था कि 50 फीट हवा में उछलकर वापस आने के बावजूद उस डिब्बे के ज्यादातर यात्रियों की तरह मुकेश कुमार भी सुरक्षित थे। बाद में बोगी में विस्फोट हुआ और आग लग गई। ब्लास्ट के चलते यात्रियों के शरीर के हिस्से आस पड़ोस की इमारतों तक छितरा गए।
Again the eyewitness account. I was awakened by a deafening sound at around 1:45 a.m. To my horror, I found the wreckage of 2 trains all around the railway track and mangled blood-smeared bodies. You could choose easier words like and blood-smeared bodies or bloodied bodies of the passengers lying all around. Comma, double quotes closed. Recalled a passerby with terror still writ large on his eyes.
पटरियों के किनारे बरामद हुए शवों को एक कतार में रखा जा रहा था। इनमें से किसी के शरीर का कोई अंग गायब था, कुछ 2 भागों में कटे हुए थे। उन सबको सिलीगुड़ी के पास नॉर्थ उत्तरी बंगाल मेडिकल कॉलेज के मुर्दा घर में ले जाया गया।
This description comes next by the reporter. At the time when this reporter visited the mishap site, police had cordoned off the site, the accident site. Cordoned off means उसको चॉक आउट कर दिया था, अलग थलग कर दिया, so that no passers-by or no people around could visit that site or get into the mess. The police had cordoned off the site while the onlookers were pushing and jostling each other for a glimpse of the tragic sight. And in the next paragraph, I told you earlier as well, use different paragraphs because it's a next point, but in the same description part of the report. Orphaned children were grieving over the death of the elders while there was chaos and cries for their lost relatives. And next comes the description, which includes the role of the medical teams, the ambulances and the rescue act. Remember, the rescue act. 12 ambulances were seen, again passive. You do see something common between this report as well as the previous report on the floods, or was it the fire report? Yes, the fire accident, the same paragraph I've taken here as well. So 12 ambulances were seen taking the grievously injured to the nearby district hospital. 3 medical teams were deployed into action by the Red Cross Society. And since you heard this in Hindi as well, so I decided to put that in English as well. 3 companies of CRPF Jawans were pushed into rescue operation. Remember the rescue operation. And of course the Malba train का उठाया जा रहा था, तो 3 JCBs, huge JCBs were spotted by the reporter. Remember, by the reporter. So it's a passive voice, past passive. Remember, word third form. 3 huge JCBs were spotted clearing out the debris of train engine and bogies. So debris again, the malba of train engine and the bogies.
लेकिन महत्वपूर्ण सवाल बना रहा, जिम्मेदार कौन है?
Like I said again, a very important declaration or a statement by the superintendent police here. We are probing the causes of the accident. Remember, this is in double quotes. We are probing the causes of the accident. It is suspected, ऐसा शक किया जा रहा है. It is suspected that it could be due to negligence of the signal master, or it could be the lineman. Whoever the police suspects it. Well, act of terrorism also cannot be ruled out. Remember, this line can be ratified. I suggest you to learn these lines. Act of terrorism cannot be ruled out, said the SP police. Right?
अवध आसाम एक्सप्रेस 6 घंटे देरी से चल रही थी और 1:30 बजे के आसपास किशनगंज पहुंची। सहायक स्टेशन मास्टर एचएन सिंह को पता था कि ये ट्रेन अप लाइन से स्टेशन छोड़ेगी, इसके लिए मैनुअली ट्रैक डाइवर्ट करना था, जो कि नहीं
Like
किया
I
गया।
said, students, this was a real accident rather. And this is how the causes were found out later after a lot of investigation. The faults done by assistant station master and all those, those officials who were in the hierarchy.
ट्रेन अप लाइन को काटते हुए उस ट्रैक पर चढ़ गई जो विपरीत दिशा से आने वाली ट्रेनों के लिए रिजर्व था। लगभग उसी समय एचएम सिंह ने एक और गलती कर डाली। उन्होंने अवध आसाम एक्सप्रेस के अगले स्टेशन पंजीपारा को ट्रेन के बारे में नियमित जानकारी दी, रेगुलर। ये एक स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर है, लेकिन जानकारी गलत दी गई थी। उन्होंने अपनी नियमित जानकारी में पंजीपारा को बताया कि एक्सप्रेस ट्रेन अप लाइन पर आ रही है, जबकि वो डाउन लाइन पर आ रही थी। अगर खिड़की के बाहर झांक कर देख लिया होता कि ये गलत ट्रैक है तो शायद, लेकिन।
And now finally, it is the chief minister or the railway minister, whoever the minister from the government is. He has to take the responsibility for it. He has to make a survey of it or a recce of it, as is done here as well. Shri Nitish Kumar, actually he was the minister of railways those days, and he had actually taken the moral responsibility and he had offered to resign as well. Later on he resigned as well on this, but that is the statement coming out from him. And this is a compensation package. Remember, it is a compensation package, a relief package of 2 lakh for the families of the deceased and 25,000 each for the injured for the treatment. That was the announcement coming from Mr. Nitish Kumar, Railways Minister.
तत्कालीन रेल मंत्री नीतीश कुमार दिन के 3 बजे पहुंच गए थे, लेकिन मलबा साफ करने वाली ट्रेन आधी रात तक पहुंच
Thanks for watching, students, and I wish that these efforts of mine would come as a reward for you, and you will score full marks. Thank you so much, and keep practicing.